Good. Okay, so coming to your mat, and we're not going to launch straight into the first pose, so just find a comfortable seated position, maybe supporting your seat with blocks or a cushion or something along those lines. And I'd like you just to start by turning circles with your toes in the air. And the reason that we're doing this is this links really nicely to the theme for today's class, which is Aparigraha. And Aparigraha is the fifth of the Yamas. And in our practice of yoga, before we get to the asana practice, which is the poses, there are the yamas and the niyamas. And these are the ways in which we live our life. Okay, so I like to compare them to the 10 commandments because there's 5 yamas and 5 niyamas, and they're very, very similar. Let's change direction with the toe circles, please. I hope you can see what I'm doing. I'm just doing some joint releasing stuff, basically. So very similar to what we do on a Thursday morning when we do the AM practice. All right, so just come to a stop and have the toes pointing upwards towards the ceiling. Scrunch your toes up really small and then fan them out, open them up wide. Scrunch them up nice and small again and fan them out. Lovely, do that one more time. And so these joint relieving movements, so now you're going to pedal, so point one toes and flex the other foot. So it's like I'll maybe turn to the side so that you can see what I'm doing a little bit. So you're just pointing and flexing like that. Okay. Very nice. And then I'd like you to leave your toes pointing upwards and just turn the soles of the feet to face each other so you feel a stretch on the outer ankle space. And then turn the soles of the feet away. So the toes are still pointing upwards, but you're just turning them away so you feel a stretch on the inner ankle. And go side to side again. Now, in our yoga practice, it's mainly considered that we hold blockages in and around the joint spaces. Okay, so one more time. And then I'd like you just to soften the legs and bounce your knees up and down. That's it. And shake your legs. And then bring the legs to being crossed or sit in a comfortable position that works for you. And some of the movements that we're doing at the start here, so now you're going to make fists with your hands, and I want you to do circles with your wrists. Okay. And then you're going to change the direction. And these joint relieving sequences are said to let go of the blockages that we hold in our body. So if you have little clicks or crunches that are happening whilst you're doing this, okay, so now bring the fingertips together, elbows together, and just slowly roll the wrists and pump the forearms up and down. So any clicks, any sounds that you're getting, the yogis kind of think of that as your body releasing the tension, releasing the tightnesses, and unblocking itself, unblocking the energy pathways. All right, now go the other way. So these are not necessarily unwanted sounds. Depends whether it's a kind of popping sound or whether it's a bone against bone sound, which is not so wanted. So be your own judge of what's going on in your body. Okay, now you're going to take your arms out to the sides with your thumbs up and your fingers pointing out, and you're going to do some circles backwards with your arms. Not very big circles, just little circles. Good. And then go forwards. Very nice. And then release the arms down, just to give the shoulders a rest. And then turn the palms up and bring the fingertips towards the shoulders and then out again. Fingertips to shoulders and out. And so this is, the name of it is something like Pawa Mukta Asana. It's got a name. It's very well known in yoga circles to do all this joint relieving as a practice in and of itself. And just like I always say to you guys, you can do that joint relieving sequence that we do on a Thursday morning. So last one and release. Now give the shoulders some circles. And you can do that as a practice in and of itself. Okay, so shoulders forwards. Good job. And then if you need to change how you're sitting because you might be uncomfortable, please do. And then we're going to come, maybe rest your hands in your lap, maybe palm on top of the other or hands on your knees. And just sit comfortably and close your eyes. Okay. Just think about your sit bones. Let your body weight drop into your seat. And then from your seat, feel yourself being lifted with a lightness and a spaciousness that's just beginning to feel really natural, feel like the right place to be, the right way to sit. So Aparigraha, so most words in Sanskrit with an a in front of them means not, it means the opposite. And so gra means grasping, so holding on to. And so Aparigraha is, what is it is that we're holding on to? Can we let go of stuff, maybe thoughts, maybe possessions, maybe ways of doing things that are not kind of holding us, not serving us anymore? And that's what I want you to think about in your practice this afternoon, in this yin practice. So close your eyes, let your shoulders relax, let your jaw be soft. And breathe in and out through your nose. We're going to just count the breath initially. So you're going to breathe in for a count of 4, just slowly counting the breath, and breathe out for a count of 4. Breathing in and out. Counting at your own pace, but encouraging the count to be slow. You're not in any hurry and there's nowhere to go, nowhere you need to be. Now, if you want to include a retention of the breath between the inhales and the exhales, you're very welcome to. If you have high or low blood pressure, then please reduce the counts, the hold slightly, maybe just hold for a count of 1 or 2. Those of you that want to take your practice, we're going to even out all of the sequence. So you're going to breathe in for 4. Then you're going to hold the breath for 4. Then breathing out for 4. And holding the breath for 4. So this is quite, keep going, this is quite a, if you like, an absorbing practice in itself, because we have to concentrate quite hard on this. If you find these numbers aren't working for you, then please adapt them. Please just, if you need to, just go back to breathing in and out for 4, that's fine. But while you're here, I want you to take notice of any recurring thoughts. My teacher often calls them stories. So what's going on? What's being played out in your head at the moment? Is there a replay? I'm so guilty of this. I go over and over the same things in my head all of the time. I have to work super hard to let stuff go, especially when I just don't need to be thinking about it anymore. So what is it that's going on inside of you that you think that you possibly could let go of today? And we're going to work on this, and maybe think about this release. And it could be a thought, it could be a physical thing, it could be a way of doing something. And that's what we're going to explore today. So we're going to do some poses that are a little bit different, or maybe do some of the same poses but with a slightly different focus. What can we do that's a little bit different that allows us to concentrate on this Aparigraha, letting go of stuff that we might be holding on to. Okay. So keep going with your breathing. We're going to do another 2 rounds. Breathing in for 4, holding for 4, out for 4, and holding for 4. And then when you get to the end of your sequence, allow your breath to gently return to normal. And we're going to keep going back to this theme, this idea, as we practice today, okay? So you can begin to open your eyes gently, and we're going to come up into the first pose. Now, it is included in a yin practice. It's not as, an unusual pose to be doing, but dangling is very yang-like. It's not very yin-like. However, Mr. Iyengar, who really is one of the kind of forefathers of a yin practice, very much use this practice a lot. So when I first discovered yoga and went to the school of Iyengar down in Deptford, this is something that we practiced a lot, and you might have used a chair to do this or something similar. So get your props, as we talked about first of all. Position, you don't know how high you're going to need this until you come into the pose. So just get yourself a selection of things. You can stand with your feet quite wide apart. I'm going to encourage you to bend your knees a lot. If you don't have anything to rest your head on, that's fine. You can then give yourself more space to hold your opposite elbows. And see if you can bring your elbows down and hold them. And then it's the top of your head which is going to rest on the props, not your forehead. Okay, so that's what's really important here, is that you allow the back of the neck to lengthen and you get the just gentle support. You don't want to be resting all of your body weight into the head, but it's just a gentle support on the top of the head that takes some of the effort out of the forward fold and offers you an opportunity for some rest, for calming the mind. Anytime when the head is being supported, we can often feel quite soothed by this. And some of you will have explored this with me in the past, where we've perhaps where we've bandaged the head, even where we've come to class with something to wrap the head up with, and it just feels so nice. So take your time playing around. You are just literally just going to hang dangling down with a little tiny bit of weight into the top of the head, but not much at all. And a sense that your spine is able to lengthen. And the other thing to notice is that over time, which is what yin allows us, yin provides us with the opportunity for spending time in the pose. And time is often one of the things that we don't allow ourselves enough of. So it might be that after some time in this pose, you need to lose some of your supports. Maybe you can take a little layer away if you are finding yourself becoming even longer in the pose. Don't be afraid to rest your tummy on the front of your thighs. Don't be afraid to bend your knees a little bit here. However, you are dangling forwards, and the emphasis is on just putting a little bit of length in between the spaces of the spine. And in the same way that we released the joints, we just did a few, we didn't do very many, we just did wrists, ankles, shoulders, elbows. Just by doing a little bit of release for the joints, can we free up blockages that are perhaps preventing us from letting go? Now, why do we let go? Why do we hold on to things? We hold on to things because we perceive that they're going to keep us safe. We think that the things we hold on to are what make us who we are. They give us our identity. But we have to also allow space in our lives. And I think that this time that we have at home, this time that we have maybe living a slightly different lifestyle, is going to give us a very big opportunity for some reflection. And what is it that we can let go of that is just getting in our way? Not necessarily because we want to aggressively move forwards in our life, but so that we can free up some space to maybe allow other things in. All right, you're doing brilliantly, everybody. Okay. So I would like you, we're going to stay for another couple of breaths. And you might have found that once you got into this, and once you found the right height of everything, once you fiddled around, then when you got here, you're right, actually quite like this. Or at least I hope that's the case. All right, so we're going to think about coming into a pose called Malasana, which is a pose we did the other day. I think we might have did it yesterday morning in class. And we're not going to, it's just going to be used as a counter pose for this. Now, what I've put behind myself, so you can lift up if you want to, give your head and your spine a bit of a break. But what I've got behind me is one of the flat blocks, or a full yoga block it's called, and I'm putting my heels on the corners. I've turned my toes out to the sides, and I'm going to let my bottom sink down into a squat. My elbows are going to come onto the inside of the knees with my palms together. Now, this isn't everybody's cup of tea, and I appreciate that. If it's not yours, then come into child's pose. So knees down on the floor, bottom down towards the heels, and just fold forwards and be quiet. So you're in exactly the same shape, but without the upright element. So those of you that are in Malasana, if you can get your heels on the floor and you're happy with your heels on the floor in a low squat, then stay here. I like to keep the heels on a block. It just takes some of the intensity out for me. I'm just going to stay here for maybe 2 or 3 more breaths, not long. We've been here already quite a long time. So just stay, enjoy, let the body begin to open up, let the hips begin to open up. We hold so much of our tightnesses in and around the hips. Okay, very nicely done, everybody. Well done. So one more breath. Good job. And then you can bring your hands or fingertips onto the floor and just shovel out of the way anything that's on your mat for the moment. Just push it to one side. And you're going to come and sit, and we're going to work into the hips a little bit more by coming into butterfly pose. Okay, so far in our practices we've reclined, we've laid down when we've done this. But for today, you're going to sit up. So your bricks, if you've got, or whatever you've got substituting, could go underneath your knees or the outside of your thighs. I like to sit on something. So just having a little bit of height can be quite nice, can help my hips and my knees to open out a little bit wider. And then if you want, you could substitute cushions for these bricks. You don't have to have anything at all, however. You could just let the knees hang around in the air. These aren't essential, okay? Now, what I'm going to ask you to do, you're going to just start by sitting upright. So maybe you could hook around your big toes or just hold your feet gently, or your ankles, I don't mind. And just stand up, just sit up for just a breath or two, just lifting up through the sternum and letting the shoulders drop down the back of the body and pressing the knees downwards towards the ground. So just seeing what kind of mobility, what movement you can get. So not forcing. Remember, Aparigraha is to let go of. So when we are forcing our body, when we're striving to do a pose, when we're trying to get into it with a real intensity, we're not kind of following Aparigraha because we're grasping, we're holding on tight to this idea that we must get our knees down onto the floor, or we must create more of an opening in the pelvis, or whatever it is that we think is the desired outcome. We're holding on to that rather than just letting ourselves be. Okay, so for some of you, you may find that you are very happy here and you want to stay upright. We're going to be here for about 2 or 3 more minutes. Some of you, however, may like to fold down. And there's a couple of ways to do this. I'm going to move my notes out of the way. So you could just hold on to the feet, pop the elbows onto the inner knees and hang forwards that way. However, a nice alternative is to give yourself a hug. And you're going to stay like this and you're going to bring your elbows down. Now you might get your elbows onto your feet. Or if you can't, like me, you're going to pop your bolster or a cushion or a blanket, and you could go back to the hug and you could just hang down so that you've got something to rest. Now my bolster's a bit too high, so it might be that I put a book there or a block and I come down and I'm resting. Now my chin is going in towards the chest and I'm rounding forwards. And I'm just going to hang out here. It's a bit like the Malasana. It's a bit like bead pose, only the knees are super wide apart. Now, can you just be here? And we're going to direct the breath into the back of the heart. So whether you're sitting upright or whether you're folding forwards, it doesn't matter. But just see if you can allow yourself to breathe into the back of the heart space and free up any tightnesses, any tension. On a physical level, the back of the heart is situated around about where the thoracic vertebra T6 is. And T6 is a really big kind of junction point in the middle part of the spine, of the upper back, because it has a lot to do with the mobility of the arms and the shoulders, but also some of the muscles and the tendons from down near the hips go all of the way up there. So we're talking about bra strap area. So it might be nice to breathe into there, especially if you're feeling tension physically. Sometimes we can feel tension on an emotional level, and that could be where we are unable to kind of think in a forwards manner, where we're thinking we can't see past the situation that we're in. And that's maybe what we can let go of here whilst we're just spending some time breathing. Very nice. And then for those of you that are giving yourself a little hug, you might want to just lift up slightly and just change the cross of the arms over, please. So that you bring the other elbow in front and you come back into your forward fold. You could also equally do this in an upright position. If you find that you've had enough of being forwards, you could sit upright and continue to give yourself a hug, and it just feels nice. We need to look after ourselves. You are looking after yourself by being here and practicing. And on a physical level, you can give yourself a hug. Let's just breathe here and remain for maybe another 6 or 7 breaths. Okay, so when you're ready, we're going to think about, on an inhalation, coming all of the way up, releasing the arms, and then cradling the outer legs as you ease the knees back in towards the center, and then slide the feet away from you, and maybe just shake it out of the legs. Maybe lean back into the hands a little bit, lift the heart. Good job. Okay, everybody. So we're going to keep our emphasis in the region of the heart, and we are going to practice melting heart pose. So you could, for this one, because it's going to be a kneeling pose, then you might want to double up the mat underneath your knees, or you could use a blanket across your mat just to give your knees a little bit of extra comfort. And then the pose looks a bit like this. If I slide that out of the way, and this here. So I want you to keep your bottom roughly above your knees. So it will need to feel all of the time as though you're moving your sit bones to the back of the mat. Your arms are going to come forwards, and I'm going to suggest that you take your arms wider, your hands wider than the mat, and you're going to bring your chin or your forehead and hopefully your chest down towards the ground. Now, if it doesn't quite get there, or you think, that's too low, then something underneath your chest, so a yoga block like this is great. You could use your bolster or a rolled up towel or something like that, or a cushion, and just something that elevates the floor for you, that maybe allows you to rest the heart down, and you can come into the pose and look a little bit like that. So propping up is perfectly valid here, and we're just creating a little bit now of extension through the thoracic spine, which is an area of the body that doesn't really like to move backwards and to extend, but is so vital, because that's where we want a lot of our back bends to come from, so that we don't rely too heavily into the lumbar spine, which can overextend. Okay, so well done everyone, looking good. If you're in the pose, well done. See if you can come down, even if if your arms get pins and needles, hands get tingly, that sort of thing, do adjust the position for your hands. Maybe take them wider, or maybe bring them closer in towards you, or just don't come down so low or so deeply into the position. It is okay to practice with kindness, with softness. This is your body. It is the most precious of all your commodities. And out of everything that you own, we're talking about letting go of stuff, we have to invite in this respect respect for our bodies, by putting good things into our bodies, by thinking good thoughts, by letting go of kind of stories that are those ones, like I said before, those ones where you're just going over and over the same things. So because this is quite a big, strong pose, it's a position that we're not usually, we find it kind of can be quite opening. So if you need to come out of this pose anytime soon, please just come and lie either on your front or come into child's pose. Those of you that are happy here and want to stay here for a little bit longer, then I'd invite you to stay for 1 more minute. That's about 6 breaths. So just slow, steady inhalations and exhalations. All right. So very nicely done, everyone. Well done. So it's really, really important that you come out of the pose with just the same care and attention that you came in. So gradually walk your hands a little bit closer in towards you and pick yourself up to an all fours position. And I'd suggest maybe just rounding gently into a cat stretch. Come back to a neutral spine. And then again into a cat stretch. So tailbone down, navel lifts, head hangs, back of the neck lengthens, shoulder blades spread apart. And then back to all fours. Okay, so we're going to come into a child's pose. And so therefore you could keep the blanket underneath your knees if you've used one. And I'm going to suggest that you come into this with the knees together, the ankles together. We're going to start off just by being in a child's pose position. So if you find that your head feels like it's got too much distance to travel, then resting your forehead on something can be quite nice. And just to give the arms a bit of relief, we're going to bring the hands round by the ankles, and we're going to use this as a bit of a counter pose initially, and then we're going to come into a lateral, into a side bend child's pose as our next yin posture. So just luxuriate here for a couple of breaths in this, in child's pose. And mentally just breathing out and thinking about releasing any of these thoughts, these tendencies, these ways of doing things. You sometimes you have stuff you look at yourself almost having an out of body experience and you go, yeah, I can see I'm doing that. Why am I doing that? But instead of overanalyzing it, maybe just go into a really gentle, really kind space and allow it to be let go of. Allow it to fall out of the front of your head and into the earth. Okay, well done. So when you're ready, maybe just lifting up for a moment, coming up to a sort of kneeling position. Okay, so just maybe by waving at me, kind of who's been cleaning their houses over the last few weeks? Who's been spring cleaning cupboards or like sorting out things to take to charity shops eventually when they open? Yeah. I read a really great quote, and forgive the language, but it said in this sort of stay-at-home period, we have this opportunity to Marie Kondo the fuck out of our lives, and that is just what this boils down to, isn't it? This opportunity to go through all the, not only our physical possessions, and do that whole summing up of it, of does this bring me pleasure? Does this fulfill my life, you know, or does it need to be got rid of? So that's what we're working on. It's so important. Okay, so we're going to come back into this child's pose idea, but instead of just hanging out forwards, I want you to walk your hands around to one side, please. And you can still bring your chin towards your chest. You could still put something underneath your forehead to rest your head down if it feels a little bit vulnerable, just hanging around in the air. But essentially, you're going to get a stretch along the side of your body, right up maybe along the underneath of the arm. So go into it as deeply or not as you wish to. You're looking for that edge in this pose, okay? A bit like the melting heart pose. You're looking for the edge where you can kind of get to an intensity that feels like the pose has become super strong, but not that it's taking your breath away, not that you're having to struggle to be in the pose. And that's what we want to let go of. We want to let go of this striving towards having to be somewhere, and being able to accept and be content with whatever it is or wherever it is that we are at this moment. So coming into your side bend and then enjoying breathing into this lengthened space. Breathing into the side of your waist. Breathing into the ribs and the spaces in between the ribs. Maybe think about the lung space here as you breathe in and out. If you've moved across towards the right hand side of your mat, then you're going to be predominantly breathing into the left lung. The left lung contains just 2 lobes because of the space that it has to have in order for the heart to sit there. And you could think about these 2 sort of sections of your lung as expanding, receiving all the lovely positive energy of the breath and breathing in some sunshine into your body. Enjoying the process of letting go that comes with every exhalation that we take. We are given this opportunity each and every breath. And if it helps, just repeat the mantra, let go. Breathing in and saying the word let. Breathing out, saying the word go. Life doesn't have to be complicated. We do enough of that outside of our practice space. Keep your practice simple. Okay. So on the next inhalation that you take, I'd invite you to walk your upper body, your arms around back to the center of your mat, and maybe just lift up for a moment. And you might need to just take a little bit of a break. If the knees have had enough of being knelt on, just sit back and lean back into the hands, maybe shake the legs out, shake the feet out. Just give the knees a little bit of respite, or the tops of the feet even. Make sure that when we've got the other side to do now. So for this side, maybe pad out some more underneath your ankles if you need that support there. You could, if you're finding it difficult to be in a kneeling position with your bottom right down onto your heels, you could put something like a cushion or a blanket or something in between that space, just to stop you from feeling like you've got so far to go down. Okay, so then when you come back into the pose, it's going to be going over towards the other side. So you're back into child's pose, which normally feels quite nice. And you're going to walk the hands across and around, keeping your tummy on your thighs. So you're not really trying to come too deeply into the waist region here, but thinking about the space around your heart, thinking about the rib cage, side bending, thinking about the thoracic spine, think about that, taking this curved shape. So play with your edge. If you have the temptation to move, try to resist it. We normally want to move for two reasons. One, because our mind is telling us to. Our ego self is saying, don't stay here, I want you to move. So try and resist that. Or the ego mind could also be saying, well, you've come into the pose and it's got easy now, so let's make it a little bit harder by moving around. And there's nothing wrong with that, nothing wrong with taking the pose a little bit deeper. But how about just staying with where we're at, where you're at, and watching how the pose gets easier after the time that you have allowed yourself to be in it. And not grasping another destination, not grasping the next stage, instead being content with where we are. Contentment is that santosha. Just accepting, letting go. Okay. So let's think about slowly easing ourselves back to the center and gently walking the hands back in as we begin to peel ourselves away from the ground And again, just come and sit, maybe extend the legs away, maybe lean into the hands. Maybe this time we'd like to bend the knees and just rock the knees side to side. Lovely. Okay, so we're going to spend some time in shoelace pose. So a bit more of a juicy one for the hips. If you want to, you could sit on something, a cushion or your blanket is quite a nice thing to sit on, so that you've got a little bit of support. And we practice this one regularly. This is where you take one foot across. It's like a pigeon pose variations of some. There's loads of ways of doing this. I think that's what's most important. So if your knee or knees are grumpy in this position, then with your bottom knee, you would extend the leg away from you. So I don't know if you can see that a little bit better. So I've got one foot crossed over the top like this. You could do both. You could have the top leg, so if I change it around, you could have this foot flat on the floor rather than bringing the foot round towards where the hip is. But it's important just to play with this, to be mindful of the knees. Sometimes it's quite nice to get your blanket, kind of fold it up into a little bit of a platform. Sometimes it's quite nice to do this with it on a longer setting, so it looks something a bit like this. And then you can wrap that so that you are putting it in between your legs, taking one leg, one knee on top of it, and then when you've taken the other leg, you're going to thread that in the middle there. So you've got loads and loads of support for your legs if they don't feel like coming quite as low down as your hips might not be ready for. So again, there's loads of variations on this. You could do like a double pigeon, which is bringing the bottom leg so that the shin is parallel with the top edge of your mat out in front of you. So if because I'm wearing black, it becomes difficult to see. So you've got one leg going right across parallel with the long edge of the mat, and then the other foot goes on the top and you sit a bit like this. And this is another one where you can weave a blanket quite nicely or wedge things underneath or in between ankles. So there's loads of variations. Just see if you can come into a seated posture which has something that resembles this, maybe resembles a shoelace, which is the knees stacked on top, and you've got a sensation going on in your hips. For some of you, that might be as simple as sitting cross-legged. So don't obviously think, oh, if I can't do the pose that Joe's describing, therefore I'm not practicing it properly. All that counts in yin yoga, and this is me being very, very honest, all that counts is that you're feeling something somewhere. And where you might be feeling this, if you're sitting in this position, for instance, where you might be feeling this might be very different to where the next person is feeling it. There isn't a rule book here, but if you're feeling something somewhere and it's not pain or pins and needles or sharp shooting pains at all, then that's okay. It's okay to be here and go, this is intense, this is a big pose. My hips are really chatting to me at the moment. They're all okay. They're all okay sensations. What can we do when we're here? Now, it's quite nice to take the hands out wide and to drop the chin towards the top knee. You could even hold on to the feet. We did this the other day, so we had this variation going on. You could take the fingertips to the floor behind you, so that as you fold forwards, you have a little sensation of length, maybe in the sides of the neck and down across the tops of the shoulders. You could go back to the hugging of the elbows and rest of the shoulders and rest your elbows onto the top of the knees. Some of you might just like to be bowing down or staying upright. So there's never a, you know, an end to these variations. Okay. So just remember, be kind to your knees. And if your knee or knees are a bit grumpy in these sorts of positions, then please straighten a leg or just do it with on like a half shoelace variation instead. Good. Just checking up on you all. Very nice. And then we're going to think about coming up and coming out. So not so long in these big hip poses because we need to do the other side. And so we get some of the same benefits repeated. So gently unravel the legs, just extend them away from you for a moment. Maybe just sit in a Dandasana, legs away, heels away, toes up. And then we're going to repeat the pose, but with the legs the other way round. So if you've sat with your legs crossed, change the cross of the legs. If you've gone for a full shoelace, make sure that the other leg is on the bottom now. You could try something different. You don't have to, remember the option is to keep the bottom leg straight and just do a half shoelace perhaps, or to have the sole of the foot on the floor. And if you want to try something different with your arms this time, then maybe bring them behind the back, maybe link the fingers. Try not to make it too yang-like, too energetic, or just have your fingertips on the floor, bowing forwards if you want. Fingertips could also come forwards as long as you don't roll off of your sit bones. Just take it and explore. Be sort of confident in your own practice that you can try new things. Maybe it's time to let go of having done this pose. And I know a lot of you would have done this pose with me a lot. We come back to this one time and time again because it's just so great for the, if you like, for the internal rotation of the hips that it offers us. However, if we get stuck in this repeated cycle, this samskara we talked about this morning in the earlier class, this cycle that we get stuck on repeat, then we're not able to let go. So trying something new can give us that opportunity. So maybe 5 more breaths. If you want to come out sooner, please do so. Okay, so as you inhale next, just slowly peel yourself away from your legs, so come back up to sit and maybe unravel and lean back into your hands and do what you need to do. Maybe circle the toes, maybe shake the legs, just gently unwind. That's nice. Okay, so you'll be pleased to know that the remainder of the class is lying down. So if you need to change the angle of your device so that I can see, you can, but don't worry, it's not going to be doing anything crazy. We're just going to come and lie in a twist, and then we're going to come straight into Shavasana. So therefore, if your body temperature has dropped slightly, if you want extra layers on, maybe grab those now, or have your blanket to hand so that you can cover yourself over for Shavasana at the end. And then we're going to come down to lie. You have got options as always. You could just lie in a nice kind of gentle lying twist, or if you feel that you're not ready to lie down yet and you want to do twisting tiger, you're very welcome to do this. We did this the other day, where you use your bolster, if you've got one, to support you to lay down into a twist that way. Okay, so there's always options here. This one I find is lovely because it's sort of less emphasis in the hips. So if your hips feel that you've had enough that in that region, then you can go back to working the thoracic spine, because I find that the thoracic spine gets more opportunity to be mobile with this twist. But here, lying down on your back, you can either have your knees bent and your feet on the floor and just let the knees rock over to one side, and the arms can be out wherever you want them to be, and that's a very nice twist, more into the hip region. Or if you want to go more for the spine, you can pick your feet up off of the floor and roll the knees over to one side, maybe support the knees or put something in between the knees if you need to. And whatever twist you're coming into, you're aiming to turn your gaze in the opposite direction to that in which your knees are in. So get yourselves comfy into a twist. You're pretty much all familiar with these. So if you need anything, if you need a hand or any pointers, just wave at me. Okay, so take as much time as you need, use as many props as is necessary to enable you to revolve the body, revolve the spine without force or strain. And twists really give us that right in a real physical sense. We're very much aware of this wringing out of the body that happens whilst we're here. And so it is said that the digestion will benefit, that all the internal organs really enjoy this opportunity. And there are other schools of thought that say they're not affected by them at all. So you take from it what you want. But I think in my own mind, in my own body, I feel this very much a sense of kind of wringing out, of letting go, of cleansing that comes from twists. All right, so we're going to take as much time as we need, but we're gently going to unwind the body when you're ready and return back to a central position, maybe lying on your back or coming upright if you folded forwards. Just peeling yourself away. Okay, so for those of you that did fold over the bolster, you're going to need to turn yourselves around so that the other hip is resting into the bolster and you crossed your legs the other way to the other side. For those of you that are lying down to twist, quite simply, you're going to take your legs over towards the other side. I'm probably just keeping the knees bent and just making it very gentle. The closer the knees are towards the height of the heart, the more intense the twist can potentially become. So you can play around with that if you want to deepen your expression in the pose. But again, remember, just take it easy, be kind to yourself. Lovely. I'm going to share with you a little tiny story about monkeys and peanuts. And it goes, there is a tale of catching monkeys by placing a peanut in a pot. The monkey puts its hand into the vessel and grasps the peanut. The simple way to escape would be to let go of the nut, but the monkey grips tighter onto its prize. So the question is, what is your peanut? What is it that you can't let go of? Maybe it's just a thought about yourself or others. Perhaps it's a job, or your adherence to your body and how it should look. The peanuts come in all forms. Okay. So we're going to think about just gently unwinding and returning ourselves to a central point. And if you're upright or have folded forwards, it might be that now you're going to come to lie on your back. For those of you already there, take this time to unwind and to lengthen out legs. Have a bit of a stretch and a wiggle around. And then we're going to come into Shavasana. So we're going to come into lying down, and do make the effort to be warm. So cover yourself with a blanket, put an extra layer on if necessary. If you like, you could use an eye pillow to cover your eyes. Just take some time prepping yourself and the space so that you're ready to settle. And as ever, if you decide to stay in Shavasana for a longer amount of time, you are more than welcome. You're in your own space. So feel free to turn off your video or to shut me off if you want to, and just luxuriate. You could stay here for another 20 minutes, couldn't you? I mean, how blissful would that be? We're going to stay in Shavasana for a little while, but maybe not as long as you would maybe want to. So if you feel that when I suggest to you to come up and out, you're not ready, just stay there, and I'll end the meeting, and you can just stay and relax in Shavasana for as long as you want. Okay. So come down, come and lie down, maybe put some support underneath you if you want something underneath your knees or your head, support if necessary. It's always good. Come down and relax. Come down and lengthen the legs. Feel the hips beginning to release and the toes rolling out to the sides. Feel the low back sinking into the mat. And the shoulder blades supporting the upper body. And the back of the head sinking, releasing, always letting go. Okay. I'm going to share with you a poem called She Let Go by Sapphire Rose. She let go. Without a thought or a word, she let go. She let go of the fear. She let go of the judgments. She let go of the confluence of opinions swarming around her head. She let go of the committee of indecision within her. She let go of all the right reasons, wholly and completely, without hesitation or worry. She just let go. She didn't ask anyone for their advice. She didn't read a book on how to let go. She didn't research the scriptures. She just let go. She let go of all the memories that held her back. She let go of all the anxiety that kept her from moving forward. She let go of the planning and all of the calculations about how to do it just right. She didn't promise to let go. She didn't journal about it. She didn't write the projected date in her day timer. She made no public announcement and put no ad in the paper. She didn't check the weather report or read her daily horoscope. She just let go. She didn't analyse whether she should let go. She didn't call her friends to discuss the matter. She didn't do a 5-step treatment. She didn't call the prayer line. She didn't utter one word. She just let go. There was no one around when it happened. There was no applause or congratulations. No one thanked her or praised her. No one noticed a thing. Like a leaf falling from a tree, she just let go. There was no effort. There was no struggle. It wasn't good and it wasn't bad. It was what it was, and it is just that. And in the space of letting go, she let it all be. A small smile came over her face. A light breeze blew through her, and the sun and the moon shone forevermore. Take a deep breath in and exhale, letting go of the breath. Breathe in and out. Breathing your awareness back into your body. Becoming aware of fingers and toes. Turning your head from side to side, perhaps. Taking a stretch out if you need to, any way that feels good. Rolling over onto your side when you feel ready. Welcome back. And then coming round and up slowly to sit. Well done, everybody. So sit comfortably, any seated position that works best for you. And when you get there, take your fingertips down by your sides. Good job. Let's breathe in, bring the hands wide and together above your head. And then exhale them down to your heart. Just sit with your hands in front of your heart, close your eyes and bow your head in reverence to the heart. And let the heart guide you. It is your greatest teacher, after all. Keep breathing in and out. And on your next inhalation, bringing your hands up, namaste. Lovely. Okay, well done. Super job, everybody. Well done for turning up, for showing up to practice. And let's just come over here. Let's go over here.